Have you started giving any thought to who's going to sleep in which tent with who and how you're going to keep track of your kids during International Camporee? Keep watching and let's share some ideas. Hi everyone, it's Audra with Pathfinder Strong, and today I want to talk to you about grouping people together in the buddy system. My number one goal with Pathfinders is that kids associate anything that has to do with church or God and fun. So my number one priority is to make sure that I group kids together so that they're not miserable the whole entire time. This is what I'm going to do for International Camporee, but really the system would work for any kind of event. So first off, let's talk about tent assignments. I always like to think about the kind of tents I have first. Now we have tents that are 4-man tents, which means automatically I half that. If we had 6-person tents, I would half that to 3. If we had 10-person tents, I would half that to 5. So since we have 4-person tents, we put two persons in each tent. Especially when you're going on a long trip like International Camporee where they're going to be living out of their tent for days, you definitely want to make sure that they have a little bit of extra wiggle room. Now, if it was just one night, maybe you could probably get away with squeezing another person in there. It would be cramped, but with this long of a trip and being in this close quarters for that amount of time, giving everybody just a little bit more wiggle room and space is key to everybody being happy for longer. We take Adventist risk management really seriously in our club, and our number one rule is we never put adults in the same tent with a kid unless it's a parent or relative in that tent with the kid. So things we consider first is I go through my list and I usually put siblings of the same gender together first. So if I have 2 brothers, they will more than likely share a tent together. 2 sisters will more than likely share a tent together. If I have a mom and a daughter going, they will more likely share a tent. If I have a dad and a son going, they will share a tent. Now, obviously, there's exceptions to that. If you have siblings that just do not get along, then of course be flexible. You want the kid to have a memorable, good experience. So next thing I consider is who's friends with who. Like I said, I want this to be a memorable, fun experience for the kids. So I'm not going to purposely put them in a tent with someone that they don't get along with. So I think about who's friends with who, and I also keep in mind, like, friend groups aren't necessarily always the best choice. If these 2 girls are going to be together and they are going to get into some mischief and feed off of each other and create a problem, then I'm probably not going to put them together. But if I have 2 that are friends and they're going to be just fine and not be over the top with each other, then I'll put them together. Another thing I consider is relationship building. So if you have someone in your club that is struggling to kind of fit in or struggling to find a friend, then you might want to consider working on building toward that relationship. So if you have a boy that's just kind of a loner, think about who do you think that boy could develop a relationship with, a friendship with in your club, and maybe put them in a tent together so they can work toward that relationship. That same thing actually transfers over to what I'm starting to think about is who's going to ride with who when we go to International Camporee or whatever event you're going to. But once again, I think about who's going to be good stuck in a car together for 10 hours and not drive the adult driver absolutely crazy. I try to put friend groups together so they have somebody fun and memorable to ride with along the way. And then I think about what relationships do I want to foster? Because after you've spent 10 hours or so in a car with someone over, multiple days, you've either strengthened your relationship or it's not a good situation. So you want to think very carefully about who you place where. You also want to think about the adults in this situation. You know what? Not every kid and not every adult necessarily hit it off. Sometimes you just butt heads with each other, or sometimes kids just butt heads with each other. It's just a fact of life. So you want to think about what kids you put with what adults. If it's a kid that just butts head with that adult or just pushes buttons, you probably don't want to put those people together in a car for 10 hours. These same principles also apply to how you're going to keep track of your kids at International Camporee or whatever event you're at. we use a buddy system. So number one, we always have two kids that are buddies to each other. It's this kid's job to know where this kid is all the time, and vice versa. And there's an adult over that buddy group. So it's the adult's job to know where this kid and this kid is at the same time. What do we think about when we make those groups? Relationship building, who can get along, what's going to make a memorable and fun experience for each other and the whole group. Let me know what ideas you have on this topic, because I'm sure you probably have some ideas that I haven't thought of before, and I would love to learn from each other. So drop that in the comments, and don't forget to like and share with somebody who's planning to go on an international camper or some other trip that this could be helpful. See you next time.